The King James Version of the Bible contains numerous references to Babylon, both as a historical city and as a symbolic entity representing spiritual or moral corruption. We know this period of sin must come to an end. The fall of Babylon represents the end of the reign of corruption. This ties in with Genesis, in which man is ejected from the Garden of Eden. We were barred from re-entry, and so we were given this world to exist on. In spiritual terms, this is Babylon. However, Christians are told to come out of her, "Be ye separate," saith the Lord. If we are to separate from Babylon, where do we go and how do we make our exodus? These are questions this essay will answer. Isaiah 13 verses 19 to 22. And Babylon, the glory of kingdoms, the beauty of the Chaldees' excellency, shall be as when God overthrew Sodom and Gomorrah. It shall never be inhabited, neither shall it be dwelt in from generation to generation, neither shall the Arabian pitch tent there. Neither shall the shepherds make their fold there. But wild beasts of the desert shall lie there, and their houses shall be full of doleful creatures, and owls shall dwell there, and satyrs shall dance there. And the wild beasts of the islands shall cry in their desolate houses, and dragons in their pleasant palaces, and her time is near to come, and her days shall not be prolonged. Babylon is both an image of great power and evil and great destruction. It bespeaks of a world system glutted with power. To have this power and reflect this level of evil, Babylon must also reflect enmity with God. God and Babylon cannot coexist. Isaiah 21 verse 9. And, behold, here cometh a chariot of men, with a couple of horsemen. And he answered and said, Babylon is fallen, and all the graven images of her gods he hath broken unto the ground. Jeremiah 50 verses 39 to 40. Therefore the wild beasts of the desert with the wild beasts of the islands shall dwell there, and the owls shall dwell therein, and it shall be no more inhabited for ever, neither shall it be dwelt in from generation to generation. As God overthrew Sodom and Gomorrah and the neighbor cities thereof, saith the Lord, so shall no man abide there, neither shall any son of man dwell therein. The impression we get of Babylon is a place that is so antithetical to God that it must be destroyed, and destroyed with such a degree of finality, it is never permitted to rise again. Jeremiah 51 verse 37. And Babylon shall become heaps, a dwelling place for dragons, an astonishment, and an hissing, without an inhabitant. Jeremiah 51 verses 62 to 64. Then shalt thou say, O Lord, thou hast spoken against this place, to cut it off, that none shall remain in it, neither man nor beast, but that it shall be desolate for ever. And it shall be, when thou hast made an end of reading this book, that thou shalt bind a stone to it, and cast it into the midst of Euphrates, and thou shalt say, Thus shall Babylon sink, and shall not rise from the evil that I will bring upon it, and they shall be weary. In the New Testament we meet Babylon again, but as a symbol of the global empire of Satan who has taken over the governments of men. Revelation 14 verse 8. And there followed another angel, saying, Babylon is fallen, that great city, because she made all nations drink of the wine of the wrath of her fornication. Revelation 18 verse 2. And he cried mightily with a strong voice, saying, Babylon the great is fallen, and is become the habitation of devils, and the hold of every foul spirit, and a cage of every unclean and hateful bird. Revelation 18 verse 10. Standing afar off for the fear of her torment, saying, Alas, alas, that great city Babylon, that mighty city! For in 1 hour is thy judgment come. Revelation 18 verse 21. And a mighty angel took up a stone like a great millstone, and cast it into the sea, saying, Thus with violence shall that great city Babylon be thrown down, and shall be found no more at all. In the Old Testament, Babylon refers to the historical city and empire, modern-day Iraq, known for its conquest of Judah and the exile of the Jewish people, circa 587 BCE. The prophecies in Isaiah and Jeremiah describe its destruction as divine judgment for its pride, idolatry, and oppression. Key points include, sudden and complete desolation, Isaiah 13 verses 19 to 22 and Jeremiah 50 verses 39 to 40 compare Babylon's fall to Sodom and Gomorrah, emphasizing total destruction, leaving it uninhabited and overrun by wild animals. This aligns with the historical decline of Babylon after its conquest by the Persians under Cyrus the Great in 539 BCE, after which it gradually became a ruin. Divine Judgment, Jeremiah 51. 62-64 symbolizes Babylon's fall with a stone sinking into the Euphrates, indicating irreversible divine punishment. The city's idols are shattered, Isaiah 21 verse 9, signifying the defeat of its false gods. Historical records and archaeology confirm Babylon's decline. By the early Christian era, the city was largely abandoned, fulfilling prophecies of desolation, though some minor settlements persisted. In the New Testament, particularly Revelation, Babylon the Great is widely interpreted as a symbolic entity, representing a corrupt world system, often associated with Rome in the 1st century, or a broader metaphor for human pride, immorality, and opposition to God. Key aspects of its destruction include moral corruption. Revelation 18 verse 2 describe Babylon as a source of spiritual fornication, leading nations astray through idolatry, luxury, and sin. Sudden catastrophe. Revelation 18. 10 and 18:21 emphasize the speed, in 1 hour, and violence of Babylon's fall, likened to a millstone cast into the sea, signifying total and permanent destruction. Divine wrath. The imagery of devils and unclean birds inhabiting Babylon, Revelation 18 verse 2, echoes Old Testament descriptions, suggesting a spiritual desolation as well as physical ruin. The judgment is portrayed as God's response to Babylon's persecution of the righteous and its arrogance. The Old Testament prophecies were fulfilled with the fall of the Babylonian Empire and the city's eventual abandonment. The site of ancient Babylon near modern Hilla, Iraq, remains largely uninhabited, aligning with the biblical description of perpetual desolation. In Revelation, Babylon's destruction is often seen as an eschatological or end-times event, where a global system of evil, economic, political, or religious, faces God's final judgment. Some interpret it as a literal rebuilt city, while others view it as a metaphor for any power opposing God's kingdom. In its destruction, the Bible emphasizes divine intervention, with imagery of fire, collapse, and abandonment, e.g., Revelation 18 verses 8 to 10. No human agent is specified in Revelation, unlike the historical conquest by Persia in the Old Testament, suggesting a supernatural act of God. But this would be expected if the Babylon of Revelations is a spiritual entity rather than a physical place. Revelation 18 verses 1 to 24. And after these things I saw another angel come down from heaven, having great power, and the earth was lightened with his glory. And he cried mightily with a strong voice, saying, Babylon the Great is fallen, and is become the habitation of devils, and the hold of every foul spirit, and a cage of every unclean and hateful bird. For all nations have drunk of the wine of the wrath of her fornication, and the kings of the earth have committed fornication with her, and the merchants of the earth are waxed rich through the abundance of her delicacies. And I heard another voice from heaven, saying, Come out of her, my people, that ye be not partakers of her sins, and that ye receive not of her plagues. For her sins have reached unto heaven, and God hath remembered her iniquities. Reward her even as she rewarded you, and double unto her double according to her works, in the cup which she hath filled fill to her double. How much she hath glorified herself, and lived deliciously, so much torment and sorrow give her, for she saith in her heart, I sit a queen, and am no widow, and shall see no sorrow. Therefore shall her plagues come in one day, death, and mourning, and famine, and she shall be utterly burned with fire, for strong is the Lord God who judgeth her. And the kings of the earth, who have committed fornication and lived deliciously with her, shall bewail her, and lament for her, when they shall see the smoke of her burning, standing afar off for the fear of her torment, saying, Alas, alas, that great city Babylon, that mighty city! For in 1 hour is thy judgment come. And the merchants of the earth shall weep and mourn over her, for no man buyeth their merchandise any more. The merchandise of gold, and silver, and precious stones, and of pearls, and fine linen, and purple, and silk, and scarlet, and all thyine wood, and all manner vessels of ivory, and all manner vessels of most precious wood, and of brass, and iron, and marble, and cinnamon, and odors, and ointments, and frankincense, and wine, and oil, and fine flour, and wheat, and beasts, and sheep, and horses, and chariots, and slaves, and souls of men. And the fruits that thy soul lusted after are departed from thee, and all things which were dainty and goodly are departed from thee, and thou shalt find them no more at all. The merchants of these things, which were made rich by her, shall stand afar off for the fear of her torment, weeping and wailing, and saying, Alas, alas, that great city, that was clothed in fine linen, and purple, and scarlet, and decked with gold, and precious stones, and pearls. For in 1 hour so great riches is come to naught. And every shipmaster, and all the company in ships, and sailors, and as many as trade by sea, stood afar off, and cried when they saw the smoke of her burning, saying, What city is like unto this great city? And they cast dust on their heads, and cried, weeping and wailing, saying, Alas, alas, that great city, wherein were made rich all that had ships in the sea by reason of her costliness. For in 1 hour is she made desolate. Rejoice over her, thou heaven, and ye holy apostles and prophets, for God hath avenged you on her. And a mighty angel took up a stone like a great millstone, and cast it into the sea, saying, Thus with violence shall that great city Babylon be thrown down, and shall be found no more at all. And the voice of harpers, and musicians, and of pipers, and trumpeters, shall be heard no more at all in thee, and no craftsman, of whatsoever craft he be, shall be found any more in thee. And the sound of a millstone shall be heard no more at all in thee, and the light of a candle shall shine no more at all in thee, and the voice of the bridegroom and of the bride shall be heard no more at all in thee, for thy merchants were the great men of the earth, for by thy sorceries were all nations deceived. And in her was found the blood of prophets, and of saints, and of all that were slain upon the earth. The interesting thing about this passage is that the kings of the earth and others stand afar off. They benefited from this system and the city, but they are not it. Babylon in the context of Revelations is something far larger and more historically ancient than the system we live in now. Indeed, the Babylon of Revelations must extend back to Eden and the events of the garden. The evil that is Babylon is the concept of human rights that is found both in the general category of rights that are affixed to the entire species, and personal rights that people create for themselves. However, in both instances, these rights are formulated to legitimize some outcome. For example, a criminal will concoct an excuse as to why he is justified to rob or kill. Crimes are justified by fabricating some right that justifies the crime, at least in the criminal's eyes. Naturally, the right of the beneficiary is matched by a duty affixed to the mark who is expected to supply what the rights of the privileged entitle them to. The fall of Babylon is the fall of parasitism and the ideology that allowed rights to flourish throughout our history. All rights back parasitic activity, and all parasitism is founded on some postulated right. When we finally end parasitism and all of its justifications, the concept of rights will also be eliminated. This is the fall of Babylon.